Right. Hope everything's going well over there. Hi, Filippo. Good
Ciao,
morning.
Johan. Ciao, Olivier.
Ciao.
Hi. Hi. All good?
Good, good.
Good. That's great. I will be off camera because I'm driving. Hope it's not a problem.
Sure. No problem.
Hi
That's fine.
guys.
That's fine. Whatever we need, it's okay. Ciao, Pietro.
Hi, Pietro. Good morning.
Hi.
Yeah, sure. So I didn't prepare any slides or anything, but basically we probably just need to we'll need your help in maybe zeroing in on what Shelly really wants before we, in my opinion, because it does take sometimes take some work to craft an SOW, right? But we would really, it would be good to understand what is Shelly really envisioning out of this, whether it's something that's redeployed on the edge device, or if it's something based on the cloud, if it's purely cloud, because the work stream for those two are uh, fairly different, especially when it comes to developing things. I'll also add that I think right now, no, probably actually know this, Filippo, that the BU Sydney Atlas has been uh, they're requiring us to they've stopped the promotion of the 7 8000, right? It's now the 7 8002,
Yeah.
and I guess that has some implications also if that's what we were going to propose to Shelly, mainly because it's it's a lot more expensive. It's a bigger from a development standpoint, it's pretty good if we use that because that's a pretty it has a bigger NPU. But I mean the expectation from Shelly's side is maybe it would be good to know, is this something that they would like to consider, they really will consider, and that can help guide us in what we can put in the statement of work.
So,
Um,
Jon, sorry, if you don't mind, that could be the good time for a question from my side. So big, let's say,
sure,
preliminary
yes, sir.
statement. I'm far away from, let's say, software expertise. It would be probably the first time I would be selling a piece of software. One thing that I wanted to understand. So I guess that at the moment we have the algorithm. So your team has the algorithm written in a high level hardware agnostic language of sort. Uh, I don't know what it could be. I know there are several ways to do that, Python, MATLAB. I mean, you are probably the much more
Python.
expert on
Yep.
that. And basically, your first question is that where would the customer like to deploy it? Would it be, uh, let's say, in cloud? So they would own, so to say, the implementation on their cloud, while we would basically provide in some way that I'm not familiar with the algorithm. Otherwise, the second part would be, would they want to do it on the edge? And of course, most likely that could require some extra work from our side, I guess, because you would have to make it compatible, so to say, with the platform they would be choosing. So is my understanding correct so far?
Yeah, but basically, generally, yes. I would
Okay.
say though, even with the cloud implementation, that has some
All right.
implications as well. Like who's hosting it, how's the maintenance or something like that, the deployment of it. Um, and I guess even from a how maybe, and this is something relatively new for ADI in general, right? And even for myself, like, is this what is ADI's business model for owning algorithms that reside in the cloud? Because how do we make sure that it's something that we does? In my opinion, I'm not too sure how our existing customers would see something like this. Like, do they really see ADI as uh, uh, a vendor who can support basically the deployment of their data into our own cloud, or if they want to host it in their cloud, then how does ADI secure also the uh, well, both the IP and
Yeah,
so
I
they're
mean,
different. Even with
I mean, personally for myself, past experiences were not, I mean, actually I had one previous experience and it was not very successful with the, maybe I'm sure you've heard of it. But, you have to try and hopefully
sure.
it, okay. And, a second comment from my side, and then I would let Filippo comment on this as well. I see highly unlikely that they would go the route of our MCU for two
Yeah.
reasons. Because the market Shelly is targeting most likely will not allow them the budget to go with a product like the Max 78002. Then we think, but we are not sure, that they have a very close partnership with ST Micro on microcontrollers. So basically, what question would you like us to double check on? Of course, the MCU type would be the MCU type, and the core would be one question. But I don't know, Filippo, if this has already been addressed in terms of what's the core,
So
what's the
no,
memory
not yet.
capability.
Let's say, no. Let's say that the discussion was blocked at the, let's say, earlier stage, because the idea of having it deployed on the edge on the 78,000 was a bit, let's say, thought by us to try to capture a bigger market share and try to kind of pair the algorithm to an hardware, so that they were kind of forced to have the coupling. If we are not perfectly ready for the edge, and as well, I always thought that 78,000 is really a good product, but it's very hard to put it on the market and for actually customer to adopt it. I would personally say that probably the best model that we should push for ourselves is the edge. And we can try to, maybe in the statement of work or something, we can try to state that the algorithm is bonded, for example, to the front end, which is something that we can do. It's just not running on the, let's say, micro, but it's bonded to the data coming from the front end. I think that is something that legally we could potentially do, because that's what we're doing with algorithms in the healthcare environment. We're saying we provide the algorithm as far as the data that you're getting are coming from our front ends. So I think potentially this is a model that we could adopt. But yeah, that's also, I think, very important to have this discussion all together and to understand even before what's the preference of the customer. I think we should try to find out and define what is our preference, so that we can push in that direction.
I mean,
Yeah.
Filippo, I guess you agree. We will still try promoting the Max 78002 and asking the corresponding product line to be as competitive as possible. We just have to be realistic that we need to devise a plan also without our MCU, because, for the kind of application, I mean, the Max 78, if this was a device to be used, I don't know, in high-end industrial automation or factory automation, as an edge AI device, it could make sense, but this is still consumer-like application, so
Sure.
We may struggle there.
Yeah.
So, it's a very tough market.
It would be good to know if it's actually possible to know what their current microcontroller is, just so that we know what the microcontroller is capable of doing.
So
because
in most of the application, as far as I know, they use Espressif as well.
Yeah, ESP.
So
Yeah, that's what I'm aware of.
32.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm personally not sure if what's the exact model, if they have some AI capability inside, but that's something that we can ask. I'm really sure that the guys have no problem in telling us.
Right.
But is this something that we would evaluate to deploy an edge algorithm running on someone else MCU, or that is out of the possibility?
I mean, that is possibility that we've actually really been considering, just because we're also aware of how limited we are on the platforms that we can offer.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
would
sure.
also add that um, we we did some initial benchmarking, or at least some tests, even with the non Max 7 8, like the non CNN accelerated platforms that we have, like the Max 32690. And what we've observed is actually
Yeah.
it runs even better on that. And just because we're not limited by the architecture of the CNN core in the Max 7 8000. So all that to just say that maybe, and this is something probably would be good to really check also with uh with the BU, is um if they can't, just in theory, right? This is just our initial discussions or investigations, that it can work on the Max 32690, and maybe even something even less. Probably we still haven't really gone that far yet. But um, if one, we use an ADI platform, we're not limited to the Max 78002 as something we
Okay.
can offer to the customer. So Max 32690 so far is one that we have investigated on. If we can get and that's like what, $5? I haven't checked the latest pricing on that, but it's definitely not $12 on the like the Max 7 8000. So if that can even also be, to what you were saying earlier, Pietro, like if the BU can provide competitive pricing, if not for the Max 7 8002 or Max 32690, and that's something still within the range of the customer, that is something that would be good. If we can
Of
still push
course,
for
yeah.
ours, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
If not, then yeah, we can definitely. Well, at this point, we should really look into what are our options in terms of a non ADI microcontroller. Um, we just need to know what are the what exactly are the specs to see if it's something that can run on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
microcontroller.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I believe this is how you bundle that, so to speak, to tie it to the AFE versus the microcontroller. That's something, uh because the other thing is deployment, right? Like we give them the binary, and then they're the ones who program it into the part every time. Maybe that's one thing. The other thing
Yeah.
is, um uh and this is the part I'm personally not too familiar with.
Yeah,
So you have to forgive me.
normally,
Yeah.
so I don't know, Olivier, if you had the chance. Also, your colleague Olivier that had the call last week with the broad market team, I just don't remember his name. Your counterpart in the US.
David.
David something, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he was bringing up the example, that for metering applications, now we have the metrology library that actually it's thought for the customer to use on mainly non-ADI microcontrollers, because metering is a devastating pricing related market, so we are not competitive with our microcontrollers there. And I know they have devised a model exactly in the line that you are saying. As far as I understood, they provide the library on a, sorry, that's an ignorance question from my side. I mean, binary and executable can be considered as the same, let's say they are synonyms, right? In this kind of, when you offer a piece of software, right?
Yeah.
Somehow. So
Yep.
that's how I know that the library is offered, but I don't have the details. So maybe, Olivier, if you were not involved in first person, maybe that's an action you can take to check with. You just said the name of the colleague, but my brain is overflowing.
David.
So with that, yeah, on how it was implemented, because if there is another micro, that's most likely what I know is the preferred way that is being done there. I know it's done similarly on the audio algorithm stuff for the automotive application. So normally I know that we provide binaries when the customer pays for a software library to ADI.
All right.
And then
Yeah.
it's endless possibilities, royalty based on the quantity, initial NRE and subscription, only subscription. So I think it's flexible based on what's our preferred model there.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah. That's good to know. Like personally, the one that I'm personally aware of is, if you guys have heard of AutoSense.
Oh yeah.
We That runs on a TI microcontroller, right?
I
But
mean,
we're offering a system.
is it still existing? AutoSense?
I was talking to
Yeah,
some
that's
of the Japan sales guys are here today, this week, and they have some customers, but this is the old one. It's still the cloud based, and it's running. Uh, if things actually push through, because we were talking with the business unit, they wanted to move from, excuse me, they wanted to move away from the TI microcontroller into an ADI microcontroller, then deploy it on the edge. But obviously,
Yeah. No, because
that
it's a fun story that I was, having also customer visits with the Sebastian's team when Sebastian's, was still the mastermind of the AutoSense maybe 5 years ago. And we went on customer visits and everything. And then everybody from the AutoSense team disappeared one day from the other. So I was just curious. So, but
yeah.
let's not waste time there. So sorry that I hijacked the
No.
conversation with these questions, but I think there was point to be cleared. Maybe I can let you go on with your let's say flow.
No. I think it's perfect. It's really more of that because either of the approaches has some implications. I'm not sure what is exactly the best model that will get us the most out of this as from a business standpoint, like which will have the better revenue. But I think certainly sticking true to our identity as ADI, really deploying things on the edge is where we can really get. And it solves a lot of other concerns which I'm also not aware of. But with the Cyber Resiliency Act and everything, there might be cyber resiliency. What was the yeah,
Yeah, I
right?
think it's a
Right.
CRA, right? Yeah.
It has some implications of doing things on the cloud and how are we going to be affected with something. You might know this better than you definitely know this better than me, Olivier, but
I
those are
don't
some
not sure. Maybe
implications
maybe Filippo,
from
but
a
not me.
security side. But that's the thing. Like it has some security implications, which I'm not so sure we are ready for if we do something on the cloud,
Yeah.
uh, more than on the edge. So that's also another thing. So
Yeah.
it would be good to know where Shelly is, and I feel that yeah, especially if it's on the cloud, maybe it's very easy for someone else to come in eventually and say, hey, we can do better with your data. So let's partner with us as your cloud-based algorithm provider. Versus if it's running on device, we can really continue to provide the differentiation
Yeah.
of high quality signals running on a well-trained algorithm, low latency, low power, etc. So that would give us the bigger differentiation, in my opinion. Um,
But you please. No,
but the,
I
the
don't think.
AutoSense the AutoSense business was actually uh the infrastructure that was set for that was so Sentinel, for example, is one example. You've heard of Sentinel, the
Yeah.
uh, healthcare product. So that's cloud based. So I don't know the exact details of who's owning and maintaining the cloud service, but from my understanding, it's ADI. And then AutoSense, the guys behind that are actually part of our team. I mean, in Jason Griffin's organization, Shane Clifford, they also set up the cloud infrastructure to support something like AutoSense. So the technology is there, and I think ADI is continually going to build that because we see the opportunity there. But are we ready for that at this point, given where Shelly probably wants to be and the business that will generate for us? I think that might be a bigger discussion. I
Yeah.
feel that we might not be ready for
So
yet.
So let's say utility metering is very different from also what Shelling is doing, but one of the reasons that I'm sure failed is that the cloud infrastructure was owned by ADI, and so the customer would have had to share the data to be put on ADI's infrastructure, and they were always pushing back. I don't know, Filippo, if that's a topic that you have touched, but what I think is that Shelly has their own cloud-based subscription services, so they have the infrastructure in place as well. So my gut feeling is that eventually they would prefer to have the piece of software to integrate in their infrastructure because they want to have the ownership of the data. But again, it's my feeling.
Yeah. And the concern there probably also is, we might actually, once they see that the business is good, they'll just say, okay, we'll just make our own in-house and just push us out, because they own the cloud infrastructure and
Yeah.
everything anyway. So I think even if we say it's tied to the part, I'm sure they'll probably negotiate a way to say we'll just buy your part.
I mean, it's very easy, Johan. In that case, you tie the price of the part to the fact that they pay the software as well. The moment the software is gone, you increase the price of the part, and that's how you tie something like this normally. And that's also in line with what David was sorry about that. They were saying that they were bundling the hardware part with the algorithm. I don't know, Filippo, if it's something done also on the healthcare side already.
Yeah, on the healthcare, like the only project that I'm working on and that I'm aware, we have 3 hardware components: the front ends for temperature and PPG, etc. And we have, let's say, a top fee for algorithm for every component they're buying. Then on top there is like an NRE, but that's something that can be included or not. So we have, let's say, a fixed amount at the beginning, and then for every component we have a royalty, basically.
So, Filippo, from my understanding, do you think that it's possible? I mean, it is the good time to check with Refik if they have in mind a cloud implementation, or they would prefer
It's
an edge
probably good
implementation?
because, to be honest, for now we kind of stopped the discussion at the beginning, mentioning that there were these 2 roads, and then we focused a bit more on the, let's say, technical side. So on the having the model implemented and showing them the results. So probably at this time it is a good moment for us and the sales to check with them if they have a preference and what's their idea, so that we can report it to Johan, to Olivier. And in the meantime, I think it's also good if we try to investigate a bit internally if there is any, let's say, preference from our side, because as far as I understood, that's not clear yet on this aspect.
Well, actually, really personally, we would say we prefer the edge approach.
Okay.
I think that's where and then once we eventually have, and I don't know, but once we have the actual platform that can support something like this, like Tahoe, which I don't know when that will exactly come out, that one should be really ideal for something like this, right?
Let's say, let's say
Perfect.
Whenever that may be, but yeah.
So, and let's say a question from my side, maybe because of my misunderstanding. So normally Shelly, you will learn is very fast. I mean, the moment they decide that we want to go with that product, normally they're fast. Let's assume Filippo reaches out to Refik. Refik says, we have this microcontroller, or very unlikely, we want to go with the ADI microcontroller. I mean, well, there would be a step, a legalese step for a statement of work that maybe you will have to take some thought of that. But one thing that I'm not understanding is that is the algorithm actually ready to be put on the market, or is it still work in progress? It depends on the data that the customer provides. Maybe it's because I'm missing some piece of information.
Yeah. No, so basically the algorithm itself, the model is ready, or the architecture rather, but it is dependent on the data that it gets trained on, which is why we're doing this exercise with Shelly and seeing, just basing on our own data that we've trained, well, not based on the public data set that we've trained it on, this is how it can perform. And basically the argument around that would be how much more if it was trained on your data. And that has to probably be tied, that should be tied in the statement of work in one way, of working together and training it on their data and then once we've established that, hey, it's very feasible at this level, then we go towards, okay, can we push it to the edge? Because again, it will depend on what kind of their use case and requirements around that. So yeah, and then you bring up a good point, because I think especially when it's something that gets deployed in the cloud, still again, there is a different level of production readiness that comes into something that gets deployed in the cloud. It's not just having a Python like base model just running there and then feed, with all the infrastructure that and robustness, if you will, that needs to be set up for something like that. So I would say we're more ready towards an edge-based implementation, if ever that will be the case. But we also still have questions in terms of what data does Shelly intend to have the model run on? Because we
Okay.
don't know what appliances they're monitoring or what exactly they wanted to work on. So their feedback is important in this stage.
Okay.
And we also don't
Okay.
want to. My only fear, and this is probably why we would be good to have this discussion early on, right? Is the scenario where they keep on asking us to do things for free, essentially.
So,
So that's why we want to.
Jan, again, maybe that's an action for you and Olivier to double check what was the work with with the with the energy view on the software metrology. I understood that the software metrology guys, they are going this path. There is an initial NRE, which includes some package of support hours for the integration in the system. Of course, assuming the integration is successful. And then there is the royalty on the library, but then also there is a service subscription for the software maintenance. Of course, those are three different variables, and we have to consider the fact that Shelly is already a multi-million account. So if they implement this on a platform, there is 1 million pieces per year. Of course, normally when you go such high volumes, you may change the way you are monetizing this, but maybe in the statement of work, it could be said, I don't know, deployment on the field is X NRE. And then, once it's ready to go on production, it could be either you meet this quantity target on the hardware or you have this X% additional fee. So that's the way. So my recommendation would be to consider the moment we sign the statement of work and we define the time window to get this in production. That's what I understood that the Energy BU is doing. We could say this is the NRE to work together to get it in production. I mean, I don't know, Filippo, if you had the feeling that Shelly may be allergic on that, or if it's something that we can put on the table.
I mean, still something that can be discussed for sure. We never really had this type of discussion with Shelly, so we always had, Pietro, we have hardware, even not so many, because we have like 5 or 4 or 6 per number. So it's always been, okay, this is the price, that's fine, signing. So we never had this type of discussion with them. I don't know. I think that's for sure something that we can discuss. I don't know what would be their reaction or their feedback on that.
That's what I understood that could be. I mean, I'm not as software an expert to say, so maybe let's say Olivier can jump in and check on that. But I understood that that's what the Energy BU is doing. NRE for deployment on the field, and then one way to make it recurring, it could be an yearly subscription, it could be a percentage linked on the part that we will have to decide what's the best proposal from our side. I don't know if that answered your question, Ivan.
Yeah, that's the same in the project that I'm working on with the healthcare group.
So I'm really sorry that I have to go in 2 minutes, so maybe we can wrap up what's the actions on either side. I think that on our side, it's, let's say, soft message to the customer that as a starting point, Edge would be our preference, but to check if they have in mind a cloud implementation or an Edge implementation. And then what is their target MCU? And then maybe we can start engaging with the product line and what would be the price positioning for a consumer-like application for the MAX 780002, sorry, too many zeros, or the MAX 32690. Was that the one you want?
Yes, that's correct.
And then the security topic, and then basically understanding from Shelly what data can you provide us. And then on the other side, from your side, it would be basically checking, let's say, the readiness status for the algorithm on both sides, the binary for Edge or piece of software to be integrated on a cloud platform, and then eventually what we want to have written in the state of work, which is basically I have linked to, the fact that we have to provide hardware, the fact that the first statement of work may be on co-development to get the product on market, and then of course the development is depending on the data availability. Those are the things that I have written down.
Yep, I think I agree.
So if I'm missing anything, I'm really sorry that I have to jump on another call. Maybe Filippo, I don't know if anything is missing and you could stay a couple of minutes longer, but
it's all the points that we
I know
wanted to cover. So I think it's pretty complete.
Maybe I know that I think Filippo is driving. I have taken some notes. I can share them later today so that you have them as a reference, which is basically what I have read now that we discussed the follow-ups.
Yeah,
that's great. That's
very
great.
good. Yeah.
Glad to be.
Great.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Olivier, sorry,
Thank
one
you.
last point. Please let us know how you want this in MSD because we need to input it in MSD. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. Thank you. Have a good day.